This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs.
Hi, I'm Josh Apter, founder of Manhattan Edit Workshop, partner at Filmmaker U, and appreciative stand-in for Gordon Perkel temporarily. At Filmmaker U, we make courses online that are for film professionals by film professionals to try to deepen and diversify your skill set. At least that's our hope. And you can find us at filmmakeru.com, on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week we interview a film professional, a working film professional. Keith Nielsen, costume designer, is with us today, and his very interesting body of work for between theater and film and television. I wanted to introduce you. I want you to tell us about, how you got started in, in this specific field, because you're in theater and you're in TV and you're in film. So what brought you to the area of costumes?
I fell into it. Actually, it's something I said I always probably would never do, just because for some reason my mind I always thought was more fashion focused when I was in college. And I wasn't in the film program, but I went to Ringling College, and there was a lot of attention being paid to the film program at that time. And all the students, if you go to film school, you want to like write or direct or camera or director of photography. So after they got their prerequisites of like costumes and production design over, like it kind of was opened up to other people. So a friend of mine and I had just did it for fun. And then I graduated, didn't have a job, but had some like film connects that way. And then I was offered an internship on Mozart in the Jungle. And I say I fell in love and the rest was history. And then my first Christmas movie was actually what you were referring to with Denise. And ever since I got the taste of like being the designer and it's like your creative vision, then I like really never looked back. I was just like, yeah, once, I don't know, it's like a tease, you don't want to like go backwards. So I was like, I'm only designing from here on out. And I've been very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And by the way, we should give Barbara Eden a little bit of credit too, because she's also in that film.
I know,
Um,
it's really cool at like my age. It's really cool that I've like dressed two people that have worked with Elvis, which is amazing. Her and Aunt Margaret, and they're both like the greatest. But yes, I love Barbara.
yeah. So and you're like you said, that was your first, but then you never looked back. You started doing theater, and these are. I mean, there's a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies, which is its own industry. But
It's
you
yeah.
know, how do you find the work that you do, and how do you balance a life in work in theater and in film, and how is it different?
Um, yeah, so I kind of started in TV, did that for a while, and kind of phased into theater, and then it was like theater and designing movies here and there. Um, for me, they really work so well together because they're different ways of thinking and different processes. Like live entertainment's different every time. Like no two shows are the same. And the amazing things that can go wrong in a live show, especially with like quick changes in garments in like my world, you have to be prepared for anything. And also you have to work very fast. I actually worked at a theater where we would put up a show in 10 days from start to finish. Like I like choreography, everything. So we called it like guerrilla theater as like a joke, and that really prepared me for working in the tight time frames of the Hallmark world, which thank you for mentioning it is its own genre at this point. There's so many of them. And then there's so many like different types based on the brand and yada yada.
I've been a camera person for 30 years, and I fell in love with cinema. I heard there was free film school in France, and I wanted to get into the French film school. I really didn't know anything at the time, but I knew at least how to take pictures. So I said, I'll try for the image department. And then when I miraculously got into the French film school, I fell in love with working with the camera. You're following what's going to be in the movie. So that immediacy that the camera allows is what I loved from the beginning. I'm Kirsten Johnson, and this is my course about documentary cinematography.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to see. And look, it's Christmas. It's right. It's like in a couple of weeks, and it's already you hear the music and start getting like into the spirit. I can see why. It's not
Christmas never
like.
ends for me, so this is like my everyday life. Um,
Are you
because
shooting these things all year round?
yeah, I mean, before the strikes, I mean, all the beginning of this year from January to July was four back-to-back Christmas movies. So,
Mhm.
I love, well, it's obviously it's nice when you're like shooting anything in the specific uh like season that you're in. It gets harder in those summer months though, to really torture people in sweaters.
Well, they're all on set anyway, so I would imagine it's at least there's some air conditioning. It's right.
Yeah, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised. I've shot, snowball scenes in like 100% humidity in the blazing sun. Um, but it's the challenges of the job, and everybody, I'm very grateful. I've worked with some awesome people, and you have a laugh at it about it at some point.
Yeah, there was a story that I don't know. I mean, we're not that different in age, but you probably didn't watch Happy Days when you were growing up, right?
No, I didn't. I know it. I
Right.
think my dad watched it, and then I did do like a quick stint as like a stitcher on like Happy Days the musical, actually.
Oh wow. Well, they used to apparently the lights were so hot they used mashed potatoes for ice cream on
Uh-huh.
set. And so like, that's what you're saying, like these movies, everyone's so like, wintered up and it's blazing hot. Yeah, I'm sure that's what
And the
acting's all
crew,
about.
yeah, we're the crew, in shorts and tank tops, so we're the envy.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's great. Like Biltmore this year, we actually shot it in January, which was really nice. So
Mhm.
in some of the scenes, you actually got like real snow, and that's also like very inspiring too to be in the actual cold filming a winter set movie. Because other than that, it's not the summer isn't very winter inspiring.
And the Biltmore is in North Carolina, is that right?
Yes, it is. In I think it's the Blue Ridge Mountains.
And you actually shot there, or is it just you picked up exteriors and had a set for most of it?
No, we shot there, which I keep saying, like, you literally like can't buy whatever the value of that is, like if it was a set. So it added so much, and it was really cool because, in film, like if anybody listening doesn't know, it's like we're always moving around. Like you're always like packing up and then like it takes time. It's like our wardrobe truck, like the wardrobe supervisor has to like lock it down so it can move, and then you have to get there in the morning, you have to reset it up. All of that takes a lot of time and energy. So it was really awesome for the whole filmmaking process, and including like myself and set deck and art. We all were able to like really set up shop at one of the event spaces on property. And like I was able to really like lay out all of my accessories and all of the jewelry and like really get a visual of everything I have at my hands.
Mhm.
Um, so that was like a really, and I think it like made a difference because we were able to, not spend time, just like moving all the time.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a beautiful. I've been there. Gosh, it was so many years ago. I think I was visiting Asheville, and it was a side trip, but it was absolutely beautiful. So to be able to shoot
Yeah.
there is amazing.
Yeah, and they were great to work with. Because like on my end, like we had to work with them for like actual Biltmore uniforms and things, and obviously like Jonathan Frakes is like we don't really know what his like role is. He's kind of like the I don't know, the head honcho. So like I had to like make sure like they were good with how I was presenting a version of their uniform because they are a brand, obviously. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going actually to visit next week because some costumes are on display, which is awesome because they've had some amazing clothes that they've displayed in the past from like Titanic and Downton Abbey. So I was honored.
Oh, that's great. It's funny. We just did an interview with the cinematographer of Priscilla,
Hmm.
the Sofia Coppola movie, and they built. They obviously couldn't shoot at Graceland.
Right.
But they were able to rebuild Graceland in Toronto
That's
to,
awesome.
yeah, but to spec, but inspired by a lot of it takes place in Elvis's bedroom that no one ever saw, so they had to make that up. But they said their Elvis, who my daughter knows from Euphoria, she's so like in love with this I don't know who he is, but at any rate, he's so tall that they said, well, it was great because Graceland, you'd be seeing the ceiling the whole time. Here, at least we got to build it higher to avoid having to shoot up at the lights the whole time. But there is something to be said for being in the place, right? I mean, it is.
Yeah, and spaces really inspire me between like, especially since it's called like a Biltmore Christmas. It wasn't just like used as some whatever location. So there's so much history there that can be soaked in and inspired, um and the Gilded Age is also like one of my favorite eras. So like that house is from there. So like all of that rolled in is very inspiring, and it makes such a difference actually like being there versus, on a set. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't look as half as good as it does if it was a set.
Yeah. Well, that leads into another question, which is, where do you find inspiration? I mean, here it seems like it gives you something just being there, but and there's other projects you've been on. What's your approach when all right, we're starting this. This is the time, the place, these are the characters, and you need to dress them. What's the process like?
So my thing that I always love to do is like my first read through of a script, like usually like a producer will tell me like an idea of what it is, but my first read through, I remember being in like elementary school and they'd be like do like brainstorming exercises, and it was like no idea is a bad idea. So like whatever comes to my head, it can be like blue, green, a mini skirt, like whatever, like comes to my head, I just like jot it down. And that really gets like the wheels turning. And then with Biltmore and same with Holiday Spectacular, because like that was at Radio City, like going to the space, like understanding like the time period, like really changes things. And understanding like it's interesting when you like know your locations before like way in advance, because you can look at all the different tones in the room and all the different like materials and how does it feel like, the smells, all of that space wise is like very inspiring to me. And then the next level is once you start sourcing, because unless you're on like a really crazy big budget thing, I mean even like on Titanic, like they didn't build everything, like you're renting and you're sourcing and you're buying. And that in itself is inspiring too, because a lot of places that I source and even just shopping online and things, there's beautiful, beautiful pieces out there that like can't be worn anymore because they're so delicate, but they're still such a great source of inspiration that can like lead to another idea or something similar in that world, or maybe you build a recreation. Um, so yeah, I mean, once you get all of the information and things, it's really kind of go time of we need some clothes. Because we do Hallmark movies, we prep them in 3 weeks and we shoot them in 3 weeks. So they are very fast.
Yeah.
And we don't get any extra time just because it's period. And in like Biltmore, all the ladies are in seam stockings and heels and period bras, and it's a lot of additional pieces. It's not like, you just roll up in your boxers and you're throwing on jeans.
And this is something that I would assume you have a team to execute on, or is this literally you running around like crazy for 3 weeks trying to source everything?
I really like to be at as much sourcing of like the general broad strokes. So like going to the rental houses where we're getting like, 10 racks of things. Which is helpful because if it's in the room, I like it to some extent. So my team really can't go wrong when they're in like background fittings. And also I really don't like wasting money. So I like to know like what I'm responsible for my budget. Where is that money going and why is it going there? But yeah, I have a great team. And then usually on a Hallmark, I usually have between 6 or 7, um, which still isn't a lot. But yes, I do run around a lot. Usually I'm the one that volunteers as tribute because I used to be a runner in high school. If somebody leaves something behind in the dressing room, I'm like, I'll just be faster. I can get it. Um, yeah, my team gets everybody going, and then I'm running around and doing my final checks, and we call them like putting out fires. There's always some little question about a cufflink or a tie or a shoe or my sock is too thin.
Hmm. Um, it sounds like a lot of fun, actually, when
It is
it's
fun.
happening.
It's fun to be curious and to like explore. And a lot of like vintage warehouses are usually in like the most unexpected places, like barns in Pennsylvania. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's fun to like dig through things and identify things. And it's also interesting. because I rent a bunch of stuff from Ann Roth, Oscar-winning costume designer, and looking at her collection of things, like it's fun to see all the names inside from like all like the theater shows. And I think the other thing I like about doing costumes and especially like vintage period pieces is we get to continue like this garment story, so to speak. So I'm always like, who wore it then? And what was their life? And somehow it made its way into my hands, and then I'm like giving it another life. And I don't know, it's interesting.
But then where does it go from you to continue that life? Is it being archived and used on another period piece? Is it getting returned? Both? Like what's the life after for the most part?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's so funny because every movie at the end, I'm like, God, we have a lot of stuff, and it's like, where's it all gonna go? And then you pull out all the rentals that need to be returned, and then you're like, oh, I actually don't own that much. If we own it, I like to keep it like Ava Hayward in Biltmore wears this like stunning oxblood two-piece 40s skirt suit, and it was just like pristine. So like I kept that, and I'm like archiving it, and maybe at some point I'll get to use it again, but. If not, I mean, it's all like preservation's really important. And Biltmore's actually really great at that for their own collection too. But preservation's important. It's also very expensive. Um,
Well, yeah, exactly. So if you have a storage facility for them that must be climate controlled, humidity controlled. I'm assuming, unless you
I
just
have
throw it
one
in a
that is
closet.
and one that isn't. I do. My dream is to have like my own like Western costume of just like collections of things, but um, space is expensive. But yeah, I mean, I keep like I'm like I love what I do, and I like love like costume history and things. So like I
Mhm.
have like key pieces that I've like bought over the years at auctions, from like House of Gucci and from like the original Grease movie. Yeah, those
What
are
did you
definitely.
get from the original Grease movie?
I have one of the Grease Lightning jumpsuits before they go into the silver. But I don't know who said it. And I worked with Barry Pearl, and I was trying to figure out because there's a number on it, and I want to like
Mhm.
trying to find out who wore it, but it's very small. It's a 36 chest, so I'm thinking it might have just been somebody in the background.
I don't know, but it was like a white and denim striped thing or something. I don't. I mean, I kind of remember the movie. I was a big fan.
It's I think it's like a canvas colored with like red lettering, and it says like Ride
Oh,
Ohio.
okay, nice.
But you know, I just needed that.
We all, I mean, I don't have the money to spend on stuff like that, but I geek out on, I mean, I'll say, when it was re-released at Lincoln Center, there was a big anniversary for Grease. My then girlfriend and I invited a group, but we all took a limousine to the premiere of the 25th anniversary, so we could
Uh,
pretend that we were going to something on a red, and we had a blast. I mean, it's one of those. It's a special. I think you have to be of a certain time and have seen it and experienced it then, but pretty special movie.
oh, for sure, Hollywood history.
Yeah, and now you've got a piece of it. So, you
Exactly.
know, yeah, I don't have any. I've looked up because I'm kind of a Star Wars nerd. I've
Mhm.
never really bought anything. But my son, who's 19, when he was much younger, we he for some reason he got into Indiana Jones. So we both dressed up on Halloween. And of course I said, well, then I'm going to be screen accurate.
Mhm.
So I went and found the hat company that made the hat, and Wested Leather, who made the jacket, and like went to insane lengths and expense. Those Alden boots are not cheap,
No.
and they're period too. So you probably know a little bit about that era stuff. I still wear them actually because they are the most durable. Like they'll be in great shape long after I'm dead.
Yeah,
Um,
it's investment. I'm all about investing in quality pieces,
Yeah, I
which
mean, I will never need another pair of dress. They're my dress shoes now, but we had a lot of fun because you can sort of get away with certain things. And that's another question, it's in terms of level of detail. I found that like even working on films of my own and doing this, like it's a couple things you can kind of get away with that kind of from a distance have to work. And
oh,
then there's certain
always,
things like you blow it, you blow it. Like it has to be
always.
spot
Yeah, I mean, like I totally brought some like 50s hats to Biltmore and like shoved them in the back. Um, because especially the 40s with like real pieces, if you don't have the budget to build everything, like those pieces are getting harder and harder to find, and still in wearable condition. Yeah, I say no matter how big the budget of a film, like in every department, we're still like, doing like little tricks here and there and hiding things, and but that's like the movie magic of it.
Yeah, there's a weird sort of like, if they're paying attention to that, something else is going horribly wrong, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like we got a problem if you're noticing, like if you're looking at somebody's like brooch in the bag.
yeah. And what I also is theater different in the sense that the closest audience member to the experience is still a distance from it.
Right.
And in a film, you're,
Right.
you're
You're
locked in. The
here.
details right there in front of you. So do you find that you have more leeway, or do you just look at it like, we've got a budget, we've got a job, let's do the best we can?
It's funny because yeah, like when you're in theater, like if you're looking at maybe a dress shirt that has like a small like pattern on it, like you're not gonna see it on stage, but you're gonna pick up that texture and that pattern on film. So like that's obviously like thought processes that happen while you're going through the process. Um, because yeah, you're making design decisions differently. So like in theater, you want like brighter colors and bigger shapes and maybe exaggerated silhouettes. Actually, interestingly enough, though, the theater I worked at was three-quarter thrust, and there was the tables that were like right on the edge of the stage. So that was interesting because you didn't have the depth ability really to work with because there were people right there. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's little things like in film. I don't like to spend my budget money a ton on shoes because we barely only see them in the wide. Um, and I also don't like to spend my money on vintage shoes because they don't fit anybody. Because our feet have evolved over the years. But yeah, no, you're obviously, I always bring up the frame, and obviously, depending on like I mean, obviously, like directors and cinematographers have their style, but also like working in the Hallmark world, like Hallmark has their style. And same with like when I've done like Lifetime, like you kind of want to understand like what that framing in general, broad strokes as a brand looks like. And that's like really important to remember. So you're like spending your energy and your focus is on what you're actually seeing in the frame and not like 45 different pairs of shoes for each outfit that you're never going to see.
Right. I remember noticing, silly, because maybe this is in Lethal Weapon. There's like, that old '80s movie with Mel
Hmm.
Gibson and Danny Glover. Mel Gibson wears these boots, these cowboy boots the whole time, but when he's chasing down a car in a wide shot, he's wearing tennis shoes. Of course,
Yeah.
he's wearing tennis shoes because who wouldn't in their right mind? But like that was the one. It was just like, well, wait, you could have painted them dark. You could have worn dark. It made no. I don't know. Pull me right out. But
I've learned to I'm sure who I would love to see who that set costumer was because I'm sure there was something where they're like, we gotta go, we gotta go. And they're like, just do it. I don't care what he's wearing.
and they're cringing like someone's
Yeah.
gonna notice, and no one noticed except me when
Yeah.
I'm like 20, being like, wait a minute, mullet's sneakers are showing. Like it doesn't. I mean, look, it never really. I mean, it doesn't matter that much, I guess. But are you working with the same crew and the same directors a lot so that you've developed a bit of a shorthand, or is it the brand, the lifestyle, Lifetime and Hallmark, a brand as a overall, or the people that you're working with that sort of establish that look and feel?
So I work a lot with the same producers and production company that work a lot for Hallmark, and that's how I was introduced to them. And I do work with a lot of the same executives at Hallmark, so we're in constant like creative conversations and like we understand each other's taste, which is really helpful because you do have a shorthand. And at this point, I've done 7 for Hallmark, so I feel like I really have like an understanding of like the brand, and I'm also biased. I think I get the cool ones like the period ones, and I did one with a seal this year. One was half black and white. But yeah, it is nice to be able, which is rare in filmmaking, to get to work with a lot of the same people. We actually did 2 back to back. Well, I mean, my whole spring was back to back, but we did 2 called Where Are You Christmas and Mystic Christmas, and we kept like pretty much the entire same crew, which allowed us to, work faster and more efficient, and it was just like nice because normally we don't get that.
Yeah. No, it's I and it's I was always I used to be on You'll probably, I don't know, costumes disliked the sound team, but I was a location sound recordist for years. And we were always sort of last in, first out, which was a nice perk of the job. But you bond quickly,
Oh yeah.
and by the end of the first day, it's like, have I known you for a month? Like
That's
it's
what I
just,
love about it. I love that. And like you can just like talk shop about like the business and being freelancers, and we're like traveling artists. It's like it's a weird way of life, but like we're all like bonded by it. Um
Mhm.
yeah, and like it's funny, like I always love like I in normal life I wouldn't be like talking to like an electrician, but like the electric's on set and I like talk all the time.
Mhm.
And that's actually interesting that you bring up sound too, because yeah, costumes is always working closely with sound to like hide a wire, and different fabrics can really make or break the sound department.
Yep. Nope. I wasn't one of the grumpy ones, but there have been plenty of sound people I worked with who were very grumpy, didn't and heard everything. Like that's the thing. Like, when you're
Yes, they
dialed
hear
in,
everything.
they hear those electricians too, eating
Mhm.
their crackers or whatever they're doing. Like, but of course, I stepped on their cables, so I would get yelled at for. But all in all, I think it's like kind of. I mean, it's different than going to war, but you feel like you're all together, and it's a tour, whether it's a theater tour, or tour of duty, or whatever. Like I think that you do bond because you're on this mission together.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's like this experience, good, bad, or indifferent, that only you've experienced. And it was actually interesting filming Biltmore too, because we stayed on property. So it was like staying on property where you're filming in like the mountains in the it was like very interesting because like I mean that's like it's like an 8,000 acre estate, and we're kind of, yeah, I don't know, like we were kind of like in this little pod.
no, it sounds terrific. I've heard of. I think what was it? The Big Chill, that movie. They all lived together, and the
Oh
crew
wow.
was together. Like they just like planted themselves down and rehearsed and shot. But the house where that most of it takes place was with a home base.
Mhm.
And so they had a really kind of collaborative experience there, and there were this pod for it. And I think that's kind of a unique. Well, it's not unique. It does happen, but it's a great experience when it does, especially if the movie is about a group of people who've been friends, in college and through and really close. Because I think that part of the aim of that was for Lawrence Kasdan to create that amongst the cast members.
Right.
And so when you watch it, you really believe these people have a real deep, long-standing relationship with one another. So,
This is not, this is a positive spin on my like nomadic life, is like I get to have these like experiences and like with crew and stuff, because if I was just in New York or LA and you're like commuting to work like a normal person, um, you're not like having those bonding experiences. So that's a positive.
mhm. Yep. And I would we've talked about this with other people too. It's like this isn't a normal person job.
No.
There's a little bit of like kind of beautiful screw loose that is required to do this, and I think it comes with the territory. But that's what also makes it continually interesting.
It is
Um,
always interesting. No job is ever the same. I mean, it's cool when you get a new script and it has different needs for every department, and that's cool for me too, because then you get period and contemporary, and it keeps things fresh.
But you're more of a period piece. You like that more just because of the challenge, or do you like it all the same?
I like it all. I like to mix it up. I like to contemporary is interesting to me because you have to be like it's very the details are important, and like the textures are really important, and like the tones of the colors are more important, whereas like period it's like kind of not obvious, but it's like more, I don't know, they're just like different ways of thinking. But period is really fun just because it's not reality, like contemporary work is interesting, but it's also like we wear regular clothes every day. It's just like fun to play in like a period world.
Hmm.
And that's like grateful for theater for me, because that's where I got a lot of like my period experience, because I actually don't have a degree in costumes. I'm like fully self-taught. So I kind of, that's also cool too, because each era I did in theater, and then like it kind of gave me a reason to, research and learn and explore. And then now it's fun to go back to those eras and adapt it in film because, like we were saying before, like they're totally different ways of thinking.
Mhm. This is a question maybe only a costume designer understand. But have you ever noticed someone wearing, and maybe it's more current than period specific, but like the clothes they're wearing are they just don't look lived in.
Hmm.
It's like someone showed up with a new pair of jeans and a new pair of shoes and a new shirt. They put them on and this and went, and it's like, well, this isn't a movie about someone who just walked out of Target.
You're right. So it depends on like what the project is. Like in Hallmark, that's great because we want the kind of like you open a little card and it's like the
Mhm.
idealistic world. But yeah, like when I was in TV and stuff, I know like once everybody would like to wash things a couple times to kind of break the fibers down and get some like additional texture, which the camera can pick up, which is awesome. But yeah, no, totally. Sometimes you're like, everybody doesn't always have like a new pair of Banana Republic jeans.
I actually just watched was that show Shrinking on Apple TV.
Mhm.
And there's a part of it that feels like Harrison Ford just showed up in what he was wearing.
Maybe he did, or
Yeah,
maybe they were inspired by his current look at what he wears every day.
yeah, it just seems like what he just wears, and they just rolled camera, and he was like, "Yeah, great, I'm not changing."
Well, when you're Harrison Ford, you can do
Yes, he and his characters have occupied too much of our time here, though. So let
that.
me get back to: is there anything where you're like, "This is the gold standard. This is my." I've seen many things. I've never seen anything like this.
As far as what costumes in
Yeah, yeah,
film?
custom. Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, I know like the old Hollywood designers are really like creme de la creme for me. I love William Trevia, who did all of like Marilyn Monroe and Ori Kelly, and obviously there's Edith Head, even though she's very controversial. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love the old Hollywood filmmaking, and I mean, anything also shot on film, I love because I love the texture of film. That's something I would love to do. I haven't designed anything personally. I've worked on things that have shot on film, but not, I'd personally love to design. But um, I don't know. That's a good question. Like the gold standard. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be like the good old MGM movies for me. I love a good tap
Mhm.
number.
Did you have? Do you remember the Untouchables? Because Armani did that,
Yes.
and it's very crisp, very
Hmm.
nice. But I don't know that I'm sure there were other people. They were just phoning, I guess, getting designs from that designer. Not, I don't think
Well, that's the
Giorgio
interesting
Armani.
thing too, because that was kind of like where the controversy of Edith Head comes in because Givenchy dressed Audrey Hepburn, but yet she's credited and like won the awards for it.
Hmm.
I also get it too because as a costume designer, like I am sourcing things from all different brands, but like I am the one that's choosing it for that character for whatever reason, and getting it across the finish line.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like an amazing job.
It's
And it's
cool.
yeah, and you're it's
Office is
and you
different every day.
and right, and your curiosity, enthusiasm about it is also very impressive.
Oh, thanks.
Um, yeah, keep them coming. But I don't know if you've had time to think about the question, the guilty
Oh, the
pleasure
question.
movie. Yes, so
The thing
that's
is, like,
always
I don't know if
Gordon's
I'm
last.
guilty about it. I'm like very open about it.
Well,
I
then
mean,
it doesn't have to be. I mean, it could be Desert Island movie. It's just like something. It's like if it's on a TV when you're walking by, you're like, oh, well, that's the rest of my day. Like something like
oh,
close to
that
your life.
uh Death Becomes Her. I think it's brilliant. And I
That's
can't
the one with Meryl Streep with holes
and
direct,
Goldie
literally.
Hawn and Bruce
Oh my
Willis. Yeah, and they take the potion and it's like Isabella Rossellini's in it. It's just awesome. She lives in a crazy mansion.
Mhm. So that's it. It's on. You're like, oh, I'm here. I'm
That
sitting
and
down.
oddly enough, I know it's long, but I love Gone with the Wind and I just think it's dramatic and I could walk around like quoting it.
So I've never seen it, and I'm like,
That's a whole day.
but I refuse to see it. And I know home theater is great and all this. Blah, blah, blah. I did. I was like, I don't. I only want to see it on a big screen. I don't want to see it on TV. I did that with Dr. Zhivago. I waited until it was there was a revival at I don't even know where I saw it, but it was big. Maybe it was gosh, what was that great theater that closed on 50 something street? It was like the biggest, the Ziegfeld. I think it was like that.
Oh yeah. It's a ballroom now.
Yeah. So and it was worth the wait. And I think Gone with the Wind will be worth the wait. You know, I watched Heaven's Gate on a 13-inch TV and was like, I'll never do that again.
Right. It's
like,
a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's just and I think it deserves, especially a film that was made when there were really no other ways to experience the film.
True, yeah,
owe it to yourself.
Go into
to
the
see
theater, yeah.
Yeah, so Gone with the Wind is on my list, although I don't know who knows if these things ever come back. They always they do rotate around.
Yeah, they're around. I mean, it's so long that like there's an intermission.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, same with Dr. Zhivago. We went out and I smoked back then, but we went and had a cigarette like you're supposed to, like a good intermission.
That's also something I've always wanted to, like, I want to bring back like an epic movie. I feel like we're missing like a dramatic romantic epic that's like 4 hours long.
Well,
That's
movies are 4
Avatar.
hours long. They're just not epic movies. They're just bloated movies that need to be edited better.
Hey, movies are made in the editing room.
I know. No, Sarah Flack is one of my favorite editors. She cut the Priscilla film. But she also cut this film called The Limey. That's one of my all-time favorite Steven Soderbergh movies. And it's got Terrence Stamp, who we all know as General Zod from the Superman movies, but he's also Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and he's a famous actor from the 60s too. But his face is amazing. She and Soderbergh redesigned the film in the edit room, and it becomes a completely new thing. So
yeah, totally.
Don't tell me that Killers of the Flower Moon has to be 3.5 hours long. I mean, he can do whatever he wants, I suppose. But I always go for the good, like get it done in 2 or less. It's not impossible.
I love I love a good hour 40 movie.
Well, I just watched Misery because of that. That thing flies along, and my 13-year-old was so scared that we had to watch what's her name? Gosh, I can never remember her name. Kathy Bates. We had to watch Kathy Bates' acceptance speech that he knew that she wasn't a real crazy scary person. But that movie's 90 minutes and you're done.
Yeah.
And it's doable. A lot of people don't appreciate that. There's something to be said for brevity. But some do. Gone with the Wind, not so much.
No, yeah, not so much.
But worth the experience.
I
I can't wait to see it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Revealing your great, the hidden pleasure movie, whatever you want to call it. That's always a good pick. I do have an outro that I guess is to say that if you want to find Filmmaker U online and look at the kind of work that we do, go to filmmakeru.com. Find us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. It's at filmmaker_u. We want to make it as difficult to find us on Instagram as possible. And we will be continuing to bring this kind of programming to you on a regular basis. It's always great to talk to working artists and never a dull moment. So, again, Keith, thank you so much for your time and have a happy holiday. Should I bust out it says bah humbug on it, for crying out loud, but there you go. Have a happy holiday.
You too, and Happy New Year. I'm hoping it's very busy for all of us in the business after the strikes.
I think it can only go in one direction at this point. So yes, here's to a great 2024.
This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to AJA.com for all your production and post-production needs.